you know, with Conquest, you just need that one game. It doesn't have to sweep. You just need one. So maybe LunaLove can pull off the first game win here as we jump into game number 1.
All right. Not great opening hands for either player. I imagine a full mull's on the table for both. Well, I mean, not a full mull because you want to keep the quest. It's encouraged at the very least. And it didn't improve very well. Oh, actually, Luna kept Swindle and Kazakis.
Interesting.
That is very interesting.
I can kind of understand the Swindle just to start drawing and getting more resources here, but keeping the Kazakis is also kind of interesting. There's also been some talk I've seen in the past of players who are not even sure. Kazakis seems like it's kind of just included automatically now, but there has been talk if Kazakis is even worth playing in the deck. Oh, Luna just draws into the prep anyways. Going to end up getting this Swindle out very early and can still play quite a bit more here.
I feel like Potion of Illusion is like the forbidden fruit in this deck. On paper, it seems just so good because you have all these, you know, cheap minions with good battlecry effects. But I feel like a lot of times you can run into some pretty intense hand space issues. And even though, like on paper, you'd think, oh, you know, all these minions have a lot of these great effects. Why wouldn't I want them in my hand? But the ones that you really want, like Field Contact, Octobot, aren't necessarily great as 1/1s, especially since you're going to be filling up your board with 1/1s. You can't put spell damage on anything, which is, you know, the main part of the deck. So I feel like it usually is a lot worse than it may seem, just because of all those reasons. So opts to go with Fire Sale, which has some flexibility, can be traded back, so Luna can just keep cycling through the deck. It will add this weird situation later on in the game when Fire Sale is just going to be in the deck forever if you trade it away, which is awkward. But for now, I think it's a good pickup.
Yeah, I don't think it's even terrible as just a play either, because of things like the smaller minions. Like we even see the Neophyte, the Tour Guide, the Panthara in hand for Eggowaffle. Those are smaller minions that could get killed off with the Fire Sale. They're not going to be as effective against the Giants later on, but against some of these smaller minions, it might be okay even just to play it, depending on if there's a turn that LunaLove just doesn't really have anything else, but does hit this turn 4 and gonna go for the Golem.
Yeah, big question here is 5 or 1. Looks like 5, okay. There was an argument for 1, just because it's an additional cycle with Field Contact, but when there's a pretty empty board, when your opponent, as the handlock, has a slow start, hasn't had Rod, hasn't had Backfire, doesn't really have control of the board, it can be beneficial to just play for tempo with a 5, especially if you hit, you know, Divine Shield plus summon a copy. It's not even vulnerable to Soul Rend, but
Yep.
An interesting combination. I don't think I've ever seen this specific Golem. A 5-cost Golem with Poisonous and draw 2 cards. That is weird.
Yeah, I don't think the combinations there were what she was looking for exactly. I agree with you. I really like Divine Shield, actually, in this matchup, especially because of things like you mentioned, the Soul Rend, but it just makes the removal even more awkward. There is actually the one unstable Shadow Blast for Eggowaffle. Some of the players aren't even running. They've just cut Shadow Blast. There is that one copy, but the Divine Shield would be, I think, more of a reason to go for the 5-cost Golem. The card draw is not bad, though.
Yeah, especially with Field Contact already in hand. Luna's just looking for an Octobot, and she's cooking. So I like it. There's second Field Contact. So when an Octobot, well, at this point, you can just use one Field Contact to start drawing quickly, and then second Octobot. The goal of this deck is just to draw through as fast as possible. So outside of the draw 2, honestly, who cares what the second keyword is on this Golem? You just want to draw through your deck as fast as possible. and kill the handlock the turn before they're going to kill you with the giants. And Eggowaffle's actually pretty far from getting any type of meaningful pressure on the board. Didn't hit the rod. Draw's been awkward. Had to just coin out. Essentially dumped the coin last turn just to get the Drain Soul out. So really looking for some threats here, just to get to the deck fast to get these scavengers cheap and on the board.
I was going to say, well, there are some threats, but they're not really doing anything yet. They're kind of just sitting there waiting. There is the Soul Rend that was picked up, but Eggo decided to go for some tradable and get this first Neophyte out. There's the Octobot.
First Octobot hit. I wonder if this is a hold turn. Luna could go for something like Octobot, Prize Plunder, and then Shroud, which would reduce the cost to 3. That would allow her to hold on to the prep as well, but it looks like she wants to actually get the minions from Shroud discounted. So now we're looking at pretty much 2 turns left. Next turn to be a draw, most of the deck with field contact, and then the following turn after that is probably looking like a kill turn for Luna.
Yeah, which it feels so crazy. It still feels like it's so early in the game, but yeah, finding that Octobot and getting to actually discount all of these resources is amazing.
Ugh.
Well, there goes a rod.
Still 2 cards away.
Yeah,
from getting these scavengers on. There's nothing coming down this turn. This is like a free pass for Luna to just do whatever she wants. Nothing has been able to come together for Eggowaffle. He can raise that and hopefully get back a Neophyte, which he does. So that'll at least maybe block some of the draw for Luna, but honestly, not really.
Yeah, that really kind of felt like a just hope it's enough, but with that discount from the Octobot coming in that turn, that was kind of a clutch draw with the Octobot for Lunalove and getting to go off here. Okay.
Yeah, board space is the biggest issue that Luna has to solve here, just because if she wants to go for a kill next turn, she's going to need multiple spaces. It's probably going to involve an Octobot since both preps have been used. I would like to see as many minions as possible killed off in this instance. Can Brain Freeze one and then Prize Plunder another, which leaves a couple board spaces open. And then the rest of them, hey, just put spell damage on your Octobot, because then your opponent will most likely kill it for you, or if not, that means you don't even need an extra board space going into the next turn as well. So I wonder if she's going to kill off more, where she's going to put these. Just a dagger up, actually. Okay.
Yeah, I do wonder, because of that board space, maybe she's thinking along the lines of not filling the board here just on the chance that Eggo doesn't have any removal or just drops a 6/6 taunt. Not that that would really do much, because the Garrots and Bleeds don't care about taunt on board, but I don't know. Forcing Eggo to choose between removal or forcing the big board space issue, but this is not looking like a good spot for Eggowaffle.
Yeah, there's a lot of threats that can come down this turn. I don't think quest completion is there quite yet. Oh, yeah, no, it is. Okay, so Flesh Giant is free, and then the Scavengers can come down as well. But if he wanted to Soul Rend, he probably would have wanted to do it for... I guess it wouldn't matter, because this game's very unlikely to go to the point where Eggowaffle's going to completely deck out and win in fatigue. Luna should be very close to killing, but at least can get Flesh Giant down, and yeah, both Baron Scavengers, and shaking his head because I think he was going to Soul Rend regardless, so maybe not worth it to throw in the Tour Guide, burns an extra card from his deck, and doesn't have a 1/1 on board. As small as that may seem, maybe that 1 damage makes a difference. Who knows?
Lost that second giant there too.
Okay, 9 cards left in the deck. There's still 2 Shadow Steps and an Octobot. So
Yeah, Eggo just basically shaking his head, looks like kind of just recognizing that there's really not much he's able to do, and leaving that field contact on board is just, like you mentioned earlier, it's basically just a repeat of a couple turns ago where Luna is just in control and able to do basically whatever she wants with the turn.
Octobot was guaranteed there because there was only 2 minions left in the deck. Last 5 cards are double Shadow Step, double Secret Passage, Brain Freeze. So because she had to spend the full amount of mana on the Shroud of Concealment, this is not going to be lethal. I think there was too many cards in deck at the beginning of the turn, and just going to have to go for some type of clear. There's the Fire Sale plus Prize Plunder. The Flesh Giant is frozen, so it can't attack. No threat of Battle Master. Both quests have been completed too, so there's no additional burst from hand, so it's going to stop here and set up for lethal next turn.
And there's not really any healing options as well. There's some threats.
Yeah.
Really probably would have liked another Neophyte, just again on the hope that the Neophyte would be enough. I don't even know.
It very well could have been, just because both preps had been used, one Octobot had been used. Yeah. Problem is the Shadow Steps, but even then, right, unless the Shadow Steps were in hand for Octobot, which is very unlikely at this point, they would have cost 1, which might have been a little bit too expensive for Luna to get everything out. But with only 4 cards in deck, once the draw comes in for Luna next turn, it should be pretty smooth sailing for Lethal. He's going to heal up just to get to an extra break point of bleed damage, but you fully expect to be dead here with no Neophyte played.
It's quiet.
And at that 20 health, it's a pretty clean break point as well for Lunalove. Doesn't need quite as much resources to try to just get that damage for killing Eggowaffle at this point either.
And bleeds plus swindles. Last 2 cards in the deck, Shadow Step and Brain Freeze. Either one that's drawn will get another draw. So pretty a simple lethal puzzle for Luna. We've seen some more complicated ones with full mana utilization and the whole 9 yards, but this one is quite easy. Doesn't even need to draw through the whole deck, just gets the bleeds immediately because Eggowaffle was already damaged. And that seemed like a pretty easy victory for Luna, to be honest. Eggowaffle just really didn't hit much in the early game that let him accelerate his quest completion and getting his threats online.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning hand for Eggowaffle was some, 6/6s, and like pretty much not much else to work with. And I guess the 5/5 as well with the Battleground Battle Master sitting in hand too. So kind of ended up just being a really clunky hand for Eggowaffle. And you mentioned that first turn, but I think Lunalove was able to take control and do kind of whatever she needed or wanted to do with the turns several times.
And she knew the limits of the deck as well, realizing that with the pin out of those last couple draws, and the bottom 5 cards in the deck being like all spells, and the turn prior realizing that she couldn't expend too many of the draw resources, like the Brain Freeze, for example, because maybe she'd need a Brain Freeze to deal with the threats. Stopping when she realized that she wasn't going to be able to have lethal the next turn, just to hold on to the resources in case she needed them. Very smart play from her towards the end there, and not going too far with that first field contact. But now, let's move on to the Shadow Priest, which was, I'd say, the deck of the week last week. It had the most sweeps out of any other deck in last year's standing. Clocked in at like a 60% win rate or something around there overall throughout the weekend. Just was pretty insane overall.
Yeah, I expect it will probably still get, maybe not nearly that because there's no sweep potential this week because of Conquest, but I still expect it to perform pretty well over the weekend. And, going into the second game, Luna was able to get that win with the Garrote Rogue, and We're going to see how she can maneuver the aggro priest. Seems like a decent-ish starting hand.
I never know with Shadow Priest. I always try and comment on mulligans as Shadow Priest against any player, and it's like they do the exact opposite. When I play Shadow Priest, I'm always kind of the high upside kind of player where I will keep cards that are like, oh, well, that card could be pretty good in any situation. Whereas probably the optimal way is just to go for the cards that you know are good in most situations in the matchup. And I'll tell you what, Void Touch Attendant and Mind Render Lucia, I know, oh, 2 of them. I know those are good. Oh, what?
Those are good, yeah.
This could be a very quick game. Lunalove can dump everything on the board turn 1.
Yep.
Wriggling Horror turn 2, and then Mind Render on turn 3 to close out the game.
Pretty much. Oh my gosh, yeah, you even see Eggo's reaction here, just like, what is happening? He probably knows what's coming here, but this is the explosive start that I think this aggro priest is looking for. And interestingly, with things like only running 1 copy of the Shadow Blast, Eggo doesn't have any replies. No, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, he's just shaking his head. Like, what can you do at this point? You just watch it happen.
Yep. Thinking about the trade, but that's 3 damage. And that needed to be, what? Exactly Drain Soul?
Would that even... Ugh, I don't even know if that would be enough.
Yeah. Could take one of the Void Touch Attendant off the board, but you take the Wriggling Horror off, there is dead on board. Dead on board, actually.
Even if it were Drain Soul at this point, Eggo now has to also already be thinking about the Raise Dead. If Luna just has a Raise Dead, then that Void Touch just comes back out anyways. No, it doesn't get to push the damage because it wouldn't be able to attack, but it would give everything else that added attack. So, yeah, Eggo just laughing. What can you do? Yep, he just throws out the concede. Not much of a game there.
I don't even know how Luna could not crack a smile during that game, right? Like, if I was playing on ladder and that was my hand against Handlock and they had absolutely no counterplay to what I was doing, I would, at the very least, chuckle to myself and be like, silly priest. What a silly deck. But at least Eggowaffle can laugh in his own, relish in his own misery there. But that was a textbook display of Shadow Priest versus Handlock if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, that looked pretty good. I think if we all just play Shadow Priest like that, then we'll know how it works, and we can get those legend ranks. Just play it like that, no problems. Good.
I mean, if the entire ladder is Shadow Priest, and every Shadow Priest draws that opening hand. Or I guess it would have to be a 50-50 split, right? Half of the ladder would be Shadow Priest, half of the Handlock. The Shadow Priests would never play against each other, and the Handlocks would never play against each other. So every game in Legend would be Shadow Priest versus Handlock, and every Shadow Priest would draw that opening hand. It'd be a weird world that we would live in.
But you can't go adding logic and like overthinking this. You just go with it, TJ.
I mean,
no overthinking.
I overthink everything and I apply logic to nothing. So,
sounds like a good way to go.
That's how I live.
It leaves us in game number 3. Lunalove just has to win with this Warlock now, and Eggo still bringing the Warlock again with Conquest. Gonna have to get a win with every deck, so might as well bring it. It's a good deck.
Yep, and we have the cool dynamic going on of Eggowaffle having Rod in opening hand, Luna having the Viper in the opening hand. I think that's I like the keep of the Viper because if you don't have Rod, at least you know that your opponent won't have a Rod either. So you're on even footing. So you could, like, theoretically throw away the Viper for the Rod, but then if you both have Rod, you're on equal footing anyway, and you may not draw it. So why not guarantee it instead of trying to have a chance that there's one? So I enjoy the keep. And oh, okay. This is a little bit of a risk by not playing the Viper here, just because if there is a backfire, Eggowaffle would get the Rod completion, but Luna's just going to say, all right, nope, I think you don't have it.
I mean, if that was the thought that Eggo didn't have it, that's an incredible read. It maybe just Luna wanted to go for the odds and go for her own game plan, trying to get her own resources there, but she's gonna play that Viper now. It's coming down. Oh.
Yep. Risk pays off for Luna.
Yeah. No, I was a little bit bummed that we weren't going to see Kalis Luna on stream today, because he has been such a personality on camera. But thank you, Eggo, for bringing that today, because we're seeing quite the reactions from him on cam.
Yeah, which I like. This has been pretty rough panouts for him overall. And now it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. A lot of those, again, situational cards. Both Bristlerbacks and both Scavengers in the opening hand. Soul Rend could be okay to try and activate those cards, start removing some of the smaller stuff off the board that's played early, like the Pantharas and the Tour Guides. But other than that, there's just nothing going. No backfire. Battlemaster now in the hand as well. Oh, geez, this is brutal.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the thinking there with Soul Rend can get there, but that's also heavily relying on Lunalove having those smaller minions as well, or Eggowaffle keeping his own small minions on board to play the Soul Rend to clear his own small minions to dig through the deck. And guaranteeing that is not necessarily the best way to go.
It's like the greatest feeling in the world when you have a Rod equipped and you just every card you hit is just more draw. There hasn't even been a backfire played, and everything in the hand is still incredibly cheap, and Luna's still able to chain the draw. Kind of stuck at a difficult situation here. Can't get the second Rod completion, and then outside of that, it's like, well, which way do you go? Do you start removing some of your own minions, like Coil your Tour Guide, and then maybe touch of Nathism, something on the other side of the board? I wonder how valuable she thinks those resources are, but that seems pretty clean to me. Yep, there we go.
Yeah. I like this line a lot, removing something from Eggo's side of the board and from her own as well. It does limit that potential if Eggowaffle is to have a Soul Rend. Still progresses her own part of the game plan as well. Second Soul Rend. Because the first one, we've talked about how useful that would be.
Wow.
Fire! Oh no.
A giant, a Rod, and a backfire. The only thing that could have been worse, I think, would be like backfire and double giant, because then you have no threats. The Rod, I can, gets worse as the game goes on, because you're going to be drawing less and less cards, and maybe the Rod would have been in like the bottom 4 when it's completely useless. But those are pretty poor discards for Eggowaffle, and honestly, with what his hand looks like right now, you could point at pretty much every card in his deck and say that's a pretty good discard. At this point, though, he's got to say, I don't care about the discards. I just want to get to 10 cards or less so I can actually play things onto the board and have some semblance of pressure going.
Even more discounts. Why not?
Sure. At this point, just equip the Rod again. Just play like a Colt Neophyte. And our 5-minute taunt. Whatever. Okay.
There's a backfire.
Finally. Okay. Now things can actually be played.
Yeah.
Eggowaffle can try and on some kind of offensive. Who knows? Maybe every single piece of the remaining removal and card draw is in the bottom 10 for Luna. And these scavengers stick every time, and then he can play the Battle Master and win the game. Wouldn't that be nice?
It sure would be. I do wonder here, Eggo was shaking his head yet again. You know, after seeing both triggers of the rod go off on basically full hands, he has to figure these are probably not sticking around.
Yeah. Upside is there's 2 raised heads left, so adding more big threats into the raised head pool is seems pretty worthwhile. But he'd obviously prefer that those were giants.
Yeah.
Curious here. There's 1 Drain Soul. There's the Shadow Blast left in the other side as well. Okay, there's a giant. That's a pretty easy Soul Rend plus Flesh Giant.
I mean, I feel like this is a game yet again where basically Luna can just do whatever she wants during these turns.
Yep. And still holds on to the second backfire as well in her deck. That was not lost in the Soul Rend discard. So closer to kind of that fatigue win condition as well if this board were to get removed, which is likely. Eggowaffle does have ways with like Soul Rend Coil plus the Drain Soul, but that means he's not playing any threats of his own. So this is going to start to get really tough as Luna's able to just play more things per turn and get further ahead of the board. And there goes the second giant.
The second giant. Oh, and Tamsin. So there's also now not the possibility of the Tamsin Drained Soul, just for a little bit more removal. Oh no, Ray's dead. Okay. Those aren't very impactful minions to get back at this point.
Nope.
Muzzle their magic.
Tap and complete the quest.
Yep, she can play it this turn as well. Has backfire next turn, plus tap, plus Pantara. That's like last card in the deck is Soul Rend, so that's I mean, could be useful if Eggowaffle has some type of counter offensive next turn, but she knows that there's no giant, so what is he gonna do? Oh, cool.
Yeah. I go for the raised head first. Okay. Could.
Reasonable.
Ego had that Mortal Coil back. That would be even better.
Yep.
Feels pretty
last
awkward
5
here.
cards in the deck.
So many possibilities.
I mean, sure, there's some removal and healing, and Raised Dead could be okay, but at this point, he would be looking for something a little bit more hard-hitting. Nothing that he plays is going to stick. He knows that Luna's in fatigue next turn with Tamsin already online, effect active, so it's looking quite grim for Eggowaffle, and doesn't even hit any of those removal. 3 of those last 5 cards would have dealt with this this Tamsin by themselves a little bit more efficiently than what he was able to do, but at least gets a 6/6 down. And there's a Soul Rend, and
yeah, I mean, a tap and backfire is quite a bit of damage to start things off as well. The unstable Shadow Blast.
And Soul Rend blast the 6/1 and then get everything done. Is there anything else? You can Tamsin blast the 1/1, then Soul Rend blast the
the blast costs 0. Yeah. which is a downside. Well, downside question mark to getting all of the discounts off of Rod, but I feel like lunaloveee is just so far ahead.
Yeah. As long as she kills the minions on board,
right,
it really doesn't matter what else she does with the turn. Like, make sure you tap every turn and do your best to kill all the minions on board, and then yeah, that's it. That's it.
This okay, she just passes, ends there.
I'm kind of surprised she didn't throw out the Tamsin there with the Soul Rend, just to be able to hold on to her Soul Rend just in case Eggowaffle was able to reload and heal up. Because right now the Tamsin only has Drain Soul value, and at this point I feel like the Soul Rend would be more valuable than the Drain Soul, just to be able to deal with a little bit of a wider board. But again, at this point, as long as she kills the minions, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Play every minion and kill your own something. That's it. You can kill the Panthara, try and heal up, but he knows the remaining cards. What's the fatigue tick next turn? Is it 3 to start off the turn? But the Panthera, I believe that is just lethal anyways, even with the heal up.
Yeah.
That was 2.
Okay, 2 damage to start, sure. Watching it add up.
Yep.
I mean, well played for lunaloveee, absolutely, but pretty unfortunate series of draws and opening hands, and just overall unfortunate 3 games, I'd say, for Eggowaffle there. Not much it felt like he could have done in some of those situations.
Yeah, the only questionable line for Luna throughout that entire series, I think, at least from my perspective, was that play right there, not playing the Viper on 3, because there was the huge backfire punish that could have made that series a lot closer. And she did it to fit in an extra tap, which, I mean, tapping the early game fast quest completion is still viable, and taking the risk that backfire wasn't there after Eggowaffle had it, like, I think a full mulligan at that point. Still unlikely, but maybe not worth the risk. But other than that, I mean, pretty clean stuff overall. I like the discipline in the Garrote Road game. I felt like that was key to the win. Shadowpriest game, we can kind of forget about that one.
Yeah.
That was 3 perfect turns, but let's be honest, like those turns weren't the most difficult to navigate. Is just, you know, sometimes you get the right matchup and you get the right cards, but much needed points and a much needed win for Luna to move out of Group A with Nalgidan. This could be the week she digs herself out of that hole and avoids relegation, or at least, you know, stamps the ticket out of relegation to set her sights on playoffs for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, talking about points too, though, Eggowaffle is going to be hurting a bit after this week. Really needed some points for himself as well. 2 more weeks to go. Maybe can manage some more points, but